Good morning and welcome to
And
Sunday Soul
welcome to
Day.
Sunday SoulDay. Today we are turning the tables and interviewing our beautiful host, Damesha Craig. Damesha, if you don't mind, I'm going to read this because I don't want to get it wrong. You have so many accomplishments, and I just want to make sure I get it right and do you justice. Okay. So Damesha is the daughter of Vernessia and Roger Craig. She is the eldest of 5 siblings, an auntie to 2 nieces and 1 nephew, and the mom to Huntley and Harlan. She is a former track and field athlete who earned a full ride scholarship to UCLA. Go Bruins! My parents also attended and met at UCLA. So I'm here because of UCLA. Anyway, the knowledge and skills that she has gained as a Division I athlete were transferable to the workforce. After working a series of jobs from PR, design, sales, and even dabbling in modeling and acting, she gained incredible experience and exposure. She then shifted her focus into building her own career. She began recruiting with a focus in the gaming industry, working both externally and internally at top-tier studios like Naughty Dog, staffing incredible titles such as Uncharted 3 and The Last of Us, and many others before transitioning into tech.
Shout out to Naughty Dog.
Despite facing numerous rejections from large tech companies, she persevered and landed an amazing opportunity as a senior recruiter at TuneIn, a startup with less than 40 employees at the time. As a seasoned people leader with over a decade of experience in both recruiting and HR, she has been privileged to work with industry leaders in fast-paced startups and has successfully doubled and even tripled the headcount of some of the companies that she's worked for. She has always been committed to implementing best practices in recruiting and HR, while also prioritizing the development of employees and fostering an inclusive culture. Having had the privilege of working in close partnership with venture capital firms such as Sequoia Capital, A16Z, General Catalyst, Google Ventures, Lightspeed, and many others, she has been able to leverage their expertise and support to drive exceptional outcomes for the organizations she has served. This collaboration has enabled her and the people teams she has led to operate with flexibility and agility while maintaining a high level of effectiveness and adaptability. Currently, she is based in Arizona with her 2 children. She is the CEO/CPO of the Craig Network, talent and HR leader and advisor to startups, a certified mindset life coach through the Jay Shetty Certification School, an entrepreneur, content creator, and author of the ebook 10 Simple Yet Powerful Ways to Practice Self-Reflection. And she's a student of life. Real quick, I wanted to read a quote that I saw from one of her friends on Instagram. Her name is Summer Watson, who is an entrepreneur and the godmother to Damesha's 2 children. Okay, she said, "If you could see how Damesha loves and cheers me on, none of us can match her or deserves her."
She is too kind. That's very sweet. I can't believe you saw that. Oh my gosh. Now I'm a little embarrassed, but
yeah, and I know that you're used to asking questions and you getting to know other people, but this is your opportunity for us to get to know you better.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to share. And, I always say, like, anytime that you're sharing your story and your experience, it's an opportunity to really be the light and really just help someone else, on their journey. And so that's what we're all, put on this earth to do. We're here to love and to be loved and to help each other. So
But it doesn't mean it's easy.
definitely not easy. Absolutely not easy at all. Not easy.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? I can't even imagine having a famous father.
Yes, that is quite a question. I will start with this. Like, my family grew up, they were actually born in Mississippi, but grew up in the Midwest. So I always tell people I have the Midwest upbringing, but raised in the West Coast. And so just those values of, like blue collar, working hard, were really instilled in my parents. And even though like my mom was a homemaker, she, worked really hard to keep our home beautiful, and my mom has always been a person that I've looked up to for a lot of reasons, just from her own strength. And, being able to raise 5 children, I have 2 of my own, so I can't even imagine having 5. And so, when I think back to my childhood, it was, beautiful in a lot of ways and idyllic in a lot of ways, because I grew up in a town called Portola Valley. And in case anyone doesn't know where that is, sometimes I tell people in the Bay Area and they have no clue where it is. It actually sits in between Palo Alto and Woodside. So it's really woodsy, really beautiful. How I developed my love for being out in nature. So I'm always really grateful for that. And I think my parents, they created a lot of just opportunity and exposure for us. And watching my dad strive for all of his goals and all the things that he did in football. He played for incredible teams like the 49ers, the Raiders, I think for 1 year, him and shout out to Ronnie Lott, who, actually left the 49ers, then went to the Raiders for a year. And then he also played for the Minnesota Vikings for 2 years. So we actually moved all the way out to Minnesota. And so there was a lot of, transition and change throughout my childhood. I think that's why like I'm very adaptable to change, because we kind of had to be. So we were uprooted in a lot of ways, and we had to develop friendships quick. And so I'm really grateful for those experiences. There's, like any childhood, things that you wish didn't happen, but they did. And so, I always say like although it's not easy to share these things or even easy to hear, it's important to share them and, hopefully to be that guiding light for someone else. But I would say like, my childhood was a mixture of, it's very chaotic, very loud household. My parents argued a lot, and, they also loved very hard. So they were very committed to each other and loved, very much the same way. So I always say their love language and argument language was very much the same. But I was more of a quiet kid. And I think like a large part of when I look back on my childhood, why I was so quiet was I was violated sexually at the age of 5 by my mother's sister. And that was not easy, and when I look back on it, and by the way, I've already forgiven, her, and, I don't hold any ill feelings towards anyone, but it is true. And it did happen. And it's not easy to talk about, but I do think that it's important because all of those experiences shape us into who we are today. And, I think it also opened me up to being violated again. And so I had very, much a people pleaser mentality when I was a child, wanted to be the perfect child, didn't want to make any noise. I wanted to be really, kind of as perfect as I can be, because I didn't want to upset anyone. And so I think like those earlier experiences, when I look back, I understand, why why certain things were done for me. I do believe things are done for you and not to you. But I also, was violated later by a babysitter as I was getting older. And I think it opened me up to more violations, But one thing that has always helped me in all of those situations were really 3 things, like my relationship with God, because I took a lot of my pain to God. I was a very quiet kid. I didn't really share a lot of things to outsiders. And so I'm sure, friends watching this will probably be shocked that some of these things occurred. But I also think that the way that we were raised in our household, that you keep, those kind of things private, and what happens in the home stays in the home. And it really does such a disservice to, to them even, like, because I really do think that it's so important to live in your truth and to stand in it regardless of it, because it's all, a part of me. And, by not living in my truth or sharing, I'm really denying a portion of myself, and I'm just not comfortable doing that. And I refuse to do it. So, my childhood, when I think about it, it was amazing in so many ways. Like, we had so much access to things. Like, I mean, I met Michael Jackson. I mean, like, not many people can even say that, like, where I got to meet him. And that was a whole crazy story. But just incredible, things that, our parents exposed us to, from, pottery, like riding horses. I owned a horse named Buck. And I was a equestrian rider, and I showed my horse and got a lot of blue ribbons, and like, had such a love for horses. It's one of my favorite animals. But I also think, like, when I look back at my parents, they were so young and they were learning so much, and then also, internalizing a lot of their traumas that they hadn't dealt with, and I think it's why I have a deep empathy for them, because I think even to this day, like, it's their motto is kind of brush it under the rug. And it's very much their generation, where they don't talk about their traumas, they don't face it, but yet it shows up. It shows up in how, they show up. It shows up in how they raise children and their communication styles, and, all of those things, like, we were, definitely smacked as kids, and like, but I think they were smacked, so it's like, you tend to, when you know better, you do better. And I think, like, my parents, for what they knew, did the best that they could. And I'm just amazed. I mean, I honestly, like, I don't think I tell them enough. I'm amazed at what they've been able to build in their life, despite the challenges, like being, dirt poor, and then coming into just access and, money, and being able to manage that. And being able to raise like 5 children and get them off to college, and, all on scholarships, by the way. And, athletic scholarships, shout out to my siblings who are incredible athletes. But when I think about my childhood, it was a lot of things, like anyone else's childhood. And I think it's really shaped me.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned, we call that intergenerational transmission. We pass trauma down.
Yes.
And then once we know better, we do better. And that's kind of what you're describing, is how you are able to take. I love what you said, that and I try to, once I heard that from you, I try to practice my life that way as well. The life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us.
Absolutely.
Once we're aware of that, we can empower ourselves to kind of have the buck stop at us and do better for our children. You also sound like you have a great amount of empathy for your parents, and everything that they've gone through, and understanding kind of where it came from, and that they did the best they could with what they have.
Yeah. And I think it took time, because, I, like any child, when you're like a 10-gallon, as TD Jake says, a 10-gallon person full of love, and you're not loved in the same way that you kind of want to be loved, there's a level of resentment and sadness, and, you wish that things might be different. But I also understand that people love you to their capacity, and they show up in their capacity. And, my dad, is a very kind person. Like, people know him. He's, like a nice guy, and, but then there's also things that I know that he's struggled with, over the years. And, he and my mom struggled together, and I had to really remove myself from that. And their relationship is their relationship. And I got to build, relationships in the way that I saw fit, and so I really, I don't have any judgment, but I also know that, like, those early experiences, when I look, they did kind of guide the way that I, like the things that I tolerated, in my own relationship. So when I was in college, like I had a beautiful relationship with a man who I loved very much, that turned, volatile and violent. And there was, verbal and physical abuse. And, again, I've since forgiven him. I talk to him, like if I see him, like there's no hard feelings, because I do know that hurt people. And so when I have those experiences, and I think it's always helped me, like forgive people, as I get really curious, because I want to understand, like, where does that come from? And it comes from somewhere, like people aren't just born angry, or upset. People aren't born not able to communicate, like, so it comes from a place deep. And I know that hurt people. So for me, like, all of those experiences gave me an incredible like level of empathy. And I think it's why I, fell into this kind of people role, where I worked with people, because I find people so fascinating, like we've all dealt with so many different things that have, shaped us. And, I say this quote, but our creator adorns us with crowns, and the crown represents our journey. And a part of that journey, you're going to get jewels and you're going to have thorns. Both are blessings. They're both equally blessings, because you learn so much with the thorns. And in the jewels, it's really a time to lean into gratitude and lean into all of the things, but also gratitude when things don't go so right, because that's where the lessons happen, and I have been brought to my knees many times and had the amazing opportunity to rebuild myself throughout my life. I have been, in relationships where I've been, the toxic one, and vice versa, like we all have. And so I don't hold any, I would say anger, or, it's just not my personality. And I think it's, it's really helped me, like, as I've developed, and really learned myself deeper. And so, so I'll pause there, because
I want to speak to that really
Yeah.
quickly. When you were talking about that there's more, and we get curious about a person. I know for myself, it's been easy for me to judge another by their actions, and while expecting them to judge me by my thoughts and feelings or my intentions. And I have to remind myself that these people who are hurting me, they are hurting. That whole saying, hurt, like I think you mentioned, hurt people. And they have thoughts and feelings behind it as well.
Absolutely.
And and another thing, we were talking about anger and grudges and forgiveness. And, I think about being angry or not forgiving as a false boundary, in a way, where when we are in a space where we aren't fully trusting ourselves, we will hold on to a grudge as a way. We kind of get forgiving and forgetting mixed up. And I always say I tell my clients, there's a difference between forgiving and forgetting. Yes. And we can forgive for ourselves. We don't have to forget. We hold a boundary. We know that someone has hurt us or violated a boundary, and we can stay aware of it and trust ourselves that we can handle ourselves and show up in that relationship in a way that works for us. Can you tell me a little bit more about your forgiveness journey and how you practice it today?
Well, and I'll just touch on something you said, but like, what I tell people, grief is a tidal wave. It's not, like you don't like go through something, or, like for me, like I didn't just get violated and I got over it. And after forgiving, that's not how it works, and so I think like really giving yourself a lot of grace. This is probably why I love the ocean, because grief reminds me of the ocean. It's like, it's like sometimes it's like the waves are lovely and beautiful, and then sometimes they come crashing down and that grief hits you again. And so I actually use it as an opportunity to go through my process again, where I'm self-reflecting, like if, grief pops up, or maybe I'm triggered by something, I use it as an opportunity to then go through the stages of grief, and and then allow myself to forgive. Because when people, I've heard, especially Christians will say like, oh, well then if you forgive and one time, like that's it, like you should just forgive. And that's just not true. Like I think like you're not human to say that things don't affect you again down the road, because it does. And it shows up in another relationship if it's not fully healed. And so I think giving myself that grace is what has really helped me, because I've had to forgive, like even my father, I've had to forgive him, and my mom, for things that maybe happened in childhood and even in adulthood that that I thought was unfair, but I also realized that again, it goes back to the tools on their tool belt, like they don't always have the tools to communicate, the tools to show up the way that I kind of needed them to when I was going through things. And so because I realized people are dealing with their stuff too, like, and so like if they haven't been able to fully love, forgive, and do all of those things for themselves, then it's really very difficult for them to show up for you in that way. So,
well, and something you mentioned of re-forgiving, it kind of reminds me of the daily inventory that I was talking about on our last episode, where I get to practice on a daily basis certain things like forgiveness, like gratitude, the affirmations. There are certain things we just do on a regular basis, or as preventatives, like something come in like a wave and then we are re-triggered, and other things we do as a preventative to keep us in that centered space.
Yeah, well, and it's like goes back to that God gaping hole that you talked about. It's like, what are you filling that up with? And so I always tell people, like, but I was just telling this to a client, like, think about having a cup of tea, right? And you're holding a cup of tea, and if somebody bumps you, what's going to happen? The tea is going to spill out, right? Same goes for whatever is inside of you. So whatever is inside of you, if you haven't been filling yourself up with, forgiveness, with gratitude, with all of the things that, it's so important to practice, that's going to spill out. And when you're in a relationship, especially, that's a mirror, like that's a mirror that the other person is holding up for you. So that is when a lot of things come out, when you're in those intimate relationships, when you're in relationships with people that you care about, like your family, your mom, your dad, your siblings. And so for me, like I'm just a student. Like I understand that, I'm not going to be perfect. They're not going to be perfect. We're all learning, and then some people are further along on their healing journey than others.
Yeah, no, that's great. And speaking of relationships, I know that you've been married. I've actually been married and divorced as well. I have an amazing husband, Ben, where we actually met at a support group while we were both going through some transitions in our life. I'd like to hear a little more about your relationship past.
Certainly. So I have been, I always say I've been engaged multiple times, but I accepted 2 proposals. I've been married once. And I asked for a divorce from that relationship. I have a relationship with the father of my children, who, gifted me with 2 blessings, Huntley and Harlan. And since our relationship, I've dated a couple people after that were, kind of short relationships, but today I am single, and I say that I'm in a beautiful relationship with myself. And I love it. So
that's actually one thing that I tell my clients when they're either looking for love or they are, just going through a breakup. As I'll tell them, I say, I want you to date yourself. And by date yourself, I want you to spend intentional time, not zoned out on your phone, but take yourself out on a date. Go to the places you would take somebody else and get to know yourself, get to love yourself, and then you will attract somebody else. And I know we'll talk more about relationships and tips with our next guest, so I won't go
Yeah,
too into,
no, totally. It's okay.
our
We have
soul filler,
I
your
know we have a
fueler.
fueler, Zach Chandler coming on, who's a dating and relationship coach. So very excited to talk to
Yeah.
him. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I have had wonderful experiences and traumatic ones in relationships, as everyone has, like and I think like you choose people like where you are in your life, and so I am in a very different place today than I was in my 20s and in my early 30s. Again, I'm 40 plus. And I think like I've always kept my heart soft.
Yeah.
Like that has really helped me like through everything. Like I've always kept my heart soft. Like people, I mean, some are so kind what she said, but I do love like that, and I think whether it's in a relationship, an intimate relationship or friendship, I think it's so important to love, and to lead with that. So, I'm very open to love. I think I'm in a place now where I'm ready to receive that. I was very focused on building businesses. So, turned a lot of dates down, I'll say that. But, shout out to the ones who even ask, because I think it takes, a lot of courage to put yourself out there and to, ask. So.
Yeah. So you said you're open to love today. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're looking for?
Okay, so I won't go into too many details, but I will say this, and feel free, you guys can quote me on this, but I will say, when I think about my ideal partner, try not to laugh at anyone, but I have basically narrowed it down to 7 Ps, okay? So I will say like someone that protects, provides, presides, professes, someone that brings peace, that's at peace with himself, more importantly, because that's the only way that you'll bring peace. Someone who really is like looking for a partnership. And the last one, mom and dad, plug your ears, but it's penis. So that's how I totally break it down into the 7 Ps. So.
I love it.
Right?
See, I told you we were going to be honest and real.
Look,
vulnerable.
I'm over 40. I'm keeping it real.
This one, I'm just going to go and transition from penis into. I know last year was a transitional year for you.
Yes,
you were working for an organization and you left around April. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened after that?
Yeah, so that was, I will say, I'll even take it back before that, because I was having let's say my transitional years, because they've been years, not just 1 year, but years started after I broke up with the father of my children, and we parted ways. He moved back to Los Angeles, and my kids and I remained in the Bay Area. And I was working for an organization then and trying to juggle just that transition, which was not easy. But I am so grateful that God kind of guided me to take that job, because I had 2 offers at the time from 2 venture capital firms. Shout out to Kapor and Goodwater Capital, but ended up accepting at Goodwater Capital. And there was a gentleman on staff who the co-founders actually hired, who was I call him like I mean, he's so many things, so I don't want to like, cut any of his titles down, but to me, he was like a spiritual life coach. And he was incredible. And so shout out to Dave Gibbons, who we were gifted. Dave, he's such a gift to this world. If you know him, his light just shines so bright. But he was really, I do believe that God makes no mistakes. And so he, was in my life at a time that I really needed him, because I felt very alone. And I felt like, a lot of things that were occurring, won't go into the details, were very unfair, like from smear campaigns and lies told. And, I'm not one who, when things like that occur, I get silent. Okay. I am not going to explain my side, my story to anyone. I just let people come to whatever decision, whatever determination, whatever they want to come to. I am not one who tries to defend myself, because I see it like this. If you will believe things without getting both sides of the story, that says a lot more about you than me. So,
I I'm so glad you're sharing this. I feel like what you just said will help so many people, myself included. I feel like I've had to defend myself or explain away or apologize. Last year, I think I went on what I call an apology tour. And, I look at it now, and that silence, I think, is so healthy for ourselves, or even a pause before we speak, and not having to explain myself or apologize all the time, but just make that amends when I feel like I need to for myself.
Yeah.
And then
And with God, more
and then
importantly.
move on. Because I don't owe an explanation to anybody but me and God.
Exactly. And that's really how I've lived my life. And so I'm not trying to change anyone's opinions about me. People are going to decide whatever they want to decide. That's their journey. And, not to sound blunt, but I really don't care. And I've never cared.
And I know I've been guilty of believing someone's one side of the story too, and making assumptions and letting someone else create a reputation for another person for me.
Absolutely.
And having
and it's so natural for women to do that. That's why I'm like, I just, I always say I let people do what they want to do so I can see what they'd rather do, and so it tells me a lot about, friendships, about like who kind of was there during that time when it was really hard. And it's especially hard when you're raising children and all of that. And, you want to do the best things for my kids. And I think, like, for me, what I heard from my higher power, God, it was to just keep healing and to keep growing and to really learn the lessons that I needed to learn through that experience. And I learned so much. So I am very grateful for, the things that we struggled with. And in, I think looking at my children's face and then their eyes, I knew I had to work even harder, because it wasn't just me, it was them too. And so I wanted to be able to be the mom that they needed me to be, that I wanted to be, and really be able to step into like who God wanted me to be. So it's been a journey. So I say that to fast forward to, just last year, where that was, a lot of transition, and, some things were difficult. Like, we were dealing with a family situation with my sister, who's just been struggling with things. And, I won't obviously go into details there, but, it was a hard time for everyone. And, for me, I love my family. I love them, tremendously. But I also know that in order for me to continue to elevate, I had to separate, which is why I moved to Arizona, to really put some, distance from my old life. And when you're growing up in that kind of structure, that family dynamic, where there's a famous family member and everyone kind of rallies around that family member, it's really important to step outside so you can look back in. I use the analogy with my clients of like diving into a pool. When you dive into a pool, you can't see. Like, you can't fully see. You can't really see until you come all the way out of the water. And really, the best view is outside of the water. And so I had to pull myself out to be able to really look in my inner mirror, because it's no blame or shame towards anyone, but it's really like an opportunity for me to hear God and hear some of the things that he wanted for me. And so after working in the organization, I knew around, like, I'd say October of 2021, October, November, that I needed to change, but I just didn't know what that looked like. And so I think parting ways with the company was the right thing for both sides. And then I went on a journey where I was still taking like consulting gigs through the Craig network. Shout out to Joyride as the company that I was servicing during that time. But I was working part-time, and which I never do, by the way. I rarely take time off. Actually, my entire career, I never took time off. And when I did, I brought my laptop, but I needed that time to just get still. And it was so important for me to still all the things in my life. So I was actually displaced from my home because the gentleman who owned the home that I was renting in Arizona wanted a long-term leaser, or he was looking at kind of selling the home. And so I had like probably less than 45 days to pack up a 4-bedroom house and move. And so with 2 little kids, and I didn't want to make any kind of hasty decisions. So I put everything in storage, and I just said, let's just kind of live like nomads and, like float around and travel. And it was the best decision of my life. Like, I am so grateful for that time. Like, I wasn't, I didn't have my stuff. Like, and I think a lot of times we get so boggled down by stuff and shit that we have that we really don't need, and I realized that I could operate with a lot less. Just the stuff in my car is all that we had. And so we traveled, we went to probably every beach in California. One of my favorite places, Tahoe, went up there and spent time with family. It was a wonderful time that I could, spend with my parents, and time that I just wouldn't have if I were working a regular job. So very grateful for that time. But it did help me transition and get really still and quiet and really look at my inner mirror. And so I started to do a lot of deeper self-reflection than I've ever done before. And it actually prompted me to write my ebook, because I figured, I'm like, I should probably document like what I'm doing, so then I can share it with someone else. I'm like a teacher at heart, so I'm always looking for ways to share. So if you follow me on social media, you'll see I'm like always sharing quotes and books and things. But it was such a great time for me. And I really invited my children into that process. And we just started dreaming for our household. I was like, I want to own a business. We had read a book by Pedro Frias. He is someone I also follow on social media, but he has a children's book that talks about ownership. And it was really inspiring to my kids. So they started, getting their wheels going. And my daughter said she wanted to start a company. And so that's exactly what we did, because I want to make sure that I'm watering them as much as I'm watering myself. So I started Harlan Rose. Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to ask you if you could tell me the names of your children's businesses.
Yeah, no. So Hunley's we're working on right now, but Harlan has Harlan Rose, LLC, which is an e-commerce business. And we, the whole premise around that is really positivity and love. The name Rose is, symbolizes love and positivity. And so we wanted to make sure that we were putting that out, because I believe everything is energy. Like you and I, everything is energy, from the clothes we wear to, everything in the universe really is energy. And so, I felt like it was an opportunity for us to put out positive energy into the world through, positive messaging. And it's a company that's inclusive, but, we primarily focus on mother and daughter things. So it's been fun. And she's now, designing t-shirts and doing all kinds of fun things, and her brother included, like he's designed a couple. So it was great learning for me. And I ended up starting another e-commerce business. I was having so much fun. So I started a cosmetic one called Cali Style Cosmetics. And during that time, I was also revamping the Craig network, because I don't know if you remember, I know your husband works in tech, but so many layoffs were happening, like from summer all the way through. I think Elon Musk kind of started that layoff train, but so many layoffs were happening. And I really needed to look at like how I was positioning my company. And so I really took my time, because I didn't want to make too many hasty decisions. But I also use the Craig Network as a consulting company, and really wanted to go forth and build like a real company out. And I'm just going to be honest with you, I have zero desires to build like a massive company with like hundreds of thousands of people. That's not a dream of mine. But what I do envision for it is really around community. And I think about like how tech really afforded me, as a Black woman without a college degree, because I did not graduate from UCLA, the opportunity to just chase my dreams and learn so much, and to be a part of just building all of these extraordinary products, that are servicing, millions of people, essentially, it's been, such a joy for me. And I'm like, if I can help more people who look like me break into tech, or to help guide them as they're going through tech, because we all have, wonderful companies that we work for, and we have challenging ones. And so I think it's a large part of why I kind of explored the coaching route as well, because I wanted to be able to coach people as they're going through and having these experiences. So what the Craig Network does is it's essentially an agency, a boutique agency that services, startups and different companies. But we also are building a community of coaches. So whether you're looking for talent or you're looking for coaches for your organization, or if you're an individual seeking coaches, we want you to come check us out. We also work internally at organizations. So one thing that's been really fun for me is being able to go into organizations and help them build their foundation, whether it's through recruiting or HR. Or right now, I'm working with a PR firm with their managers. And so that's really exciting for me. So I get to coach them because they're pretty new to managing. And it's been such a journey. So doing a little bit of that. And I earned the coaching certification through the Jay Shetty coaching certification school. So shout out to Jay Shetty. School's amazing. If you guys are interested in being a coach, definitely check his school out, because it was such a journey for me. And it was more than I even envisioned, because I went in with one kind of agenda and came out learning myself even more deeply than I had before. And really feeling a lot more purposeful and, a part of this, really this movement, it feels like a movement with him. And so just to be a part of that movement is just extraordinary for me. So I know I've talked forever.
Wow. No, you have so much that you've done and that you do. It's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I know you shared about some of the things that you do on Sundays to fuel your soul. You had mentioned it in the first episode briefly, but I know that there's a lot more. Can you share some of the things that you do on Sundays to fuel your soul?
Yeah, I mean, in doing all of this as a single mom, I definitely have to have my practices and my rituals to keep me going. But I think some of the things that I shared, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm can't remember everything I said, but I definitely practice gratitude daily. That's something that I have to I'll write it out, or I'll sit and I'll think about things that I'm grateful for. And I do it in the morning and in the evening, because I want to wake up grateful and I want to go to bed grateful. But I also release things. So things that are heavy on my heart, I will write those things down and just release it. Sometimes if it's really heavy, I'll write it down and then I'll rip the paper up and then throw it away, because I want to just release it so I can actually sleep peacefully. And, my kids and I do a lot of really fun things on Sunday. I love to cook for them every Sunday, or either we'll go out to breakfast, but for the most part, we'll cook in the house, because we have a bit of a dance party. So if you come to our house on Sunday, you are going to get a full-blown concert. Music is a huge part of our lives, and always has been a part of my life, and has really helped me through every stage of my life. So shout out to anyone making music. You guys are amazing. So grateful for you. But we
what have do you like to cook?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, my kids love two things. My daughter loves waffles, and my son actually loves pancakes, which is a new thing for him, because he never used to eat them before. But so sometimes I'll just make both to appease them. So yeah, because we try and do rock, paper, scissors, and just doesn't work. So I'll make both, but just normal breakfast food like eggs, bacon, hash browns, turkey bacon, by the way. And yeah, we'll do that. And sometimes we'll make lunch here, but we love having dance parties. So I've posted, if you follow me on social media, you've probably seen some videos where my kids are full blown dancing, having concerts. I will get involved, and it really allows me to kind of tap into that childlike spirit. And it's you dance like no one's watching. I actually do that in public too, in my car especially.
I dance like everybody's watching.
Oh, you do? I dance like no one's watching. I could care less either way, but I'm
Yeah,
like,
I thrive on the stage. I love.
yeah, well, that makes sense, which is why you had your performance and you're now in a dance group and ballet.
Yes,
So
it's no secret that I like attention. I'm just going to put it out there.
I love
Okay.
it.
I
Wow,
used
it's
to
good.
make my sister and my best friend Liz, hi Liz, hi Katie. I
I
used to
love
make
it.
them makeup dance routines
Oh
with
my God,
me
stop.
when we were kids, and they are both, I would say, somewhat introverted. They like to read and do things on their own, and I would make them make up. You know, I was the choreographer, and we would make up dance
Oh
routines
my
together.
goodness. I can just see you. I can just see it. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh. No,
and
and it's so funny.
yeah,
I'm completely opposite. Like if I go out, like I'm usually wearing like a hat, dark
yeah,
sunglasses, like I
yeah,
usually have a book with me or my Kindle, which I'm obsessed with.
yeah,
And I'm not great with attention. And I think like,
yeah,
and it's so ironic because I was in a people oriented role, but
yeah,
it's more because I'm fascinated with people, and I love
yeah.
like, mentoring and I'm a teacher at heart. And so like the whole coaching and mentoring felt very natural to me, but I also don't do well with attention, like I'm working on it because I know like one of the things that God has called me to do is to stop hiding, and to live a lot more out loud and to share, because in me doing so, I'm hoping that it invites others to share, things with us as we do this podcast and really share, even if it's just within your community. Getting it out of you is
Yeah.
such a beautiful way to heal and to start your healing journey.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of my favorite things about being a therapist. I have the type of job or career where it's like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
And I completely believe that about what I do. I feel like I have been able to become my authentic self, and I love helping and witnessing the people I work with become their authentic self, comfortable in their skin, trusting themselves, loving themselves. It's one of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing to do. I wanted
Absolutely.
to ask you, I wanted to ask you,
But yeah, so many other things too that I do before
yeah,
you go on, like hiking. Like
yeah,
we love to get outdoors and go to parks and different museums. And it's really like, I think for me, I like experiences, but I also like to just be home. I'm a bit of a homebody. So it's funny when people are like, oh, you're always traveling, you're always on the go. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I go from like my living room to my bedroom, like I love being home, and making a home, because I feel like your home is where your angels are. And for me, like, my home can be anywhere. Like people ask me, oh, where would you want to live in the world? I'm like, it doesn't matter, like I can really live anywhere, because I do believe, your home is wherever you are.
it's amazing. And I agree completely. Um, Sorry to cut you off. I know there's so many
I
things
know
that you
so
do
many things. Yeah.
helpful to everyone. Since life is a journey and we're always a work in progress, what are some areas that you notice you might want to keep working on?
Yeah, like when I think about my wheel of life, I would say like, I want to keep, working on all of those areas in my wheel of life, but I would say like really around love and relationships, like I'm now open to it. So that's going to continue to be, I know, like, I think I do believe like you have to do the work on you, so then the right person will show up, and it's like not forced. And I think like when you're a good person and your intentions are pure, and you really come from a place of love, like the universe and God conspires in your favor. I really do believe that. I remember hearing a woman on a podcast say like the universe doesn't care about you, and I just couldn't disagree more. I do believe the universe cares, because we are all a part of the universe. And so I think like, because we can't physically see God, like he puts people on our path that are part of the universe that conspire in our favor and that help us along our journey. And so I'm really grateful for that. And, so I would say that's an area. And even like I'm really diving deep financially to learn as much as I can there, because there's so many, and I've talked to so many people. So shout out to all the people who have gotten on Zoom calls with me to help me understand things more, and just the people who I've DM'd and they've answered. Just really grateful for that. I'm always learning, and
You are a student of life, like you said. You
I
said in
am,
the intro.
I really am. Like, I'm not afraid to, I think it's part of being a recruiter too, but I'm not afraid to like email anyone or call someone on the phone. Like, if I think you're attractive, like, or if I want to just talk to you, I will call you, like I will find your number and then I will call you. Because I think also too, I'm not afraid of rejection. And that has been a gift for me. That's a huge gift. I think like a lot of times people are so afraid of the rejection component. And I'm not like, I think what helped me is like, doing the whole modeling and acting like early on in my life, like I was rejected so much, and I've also felt rejected, in like certain groups, like, when I was running track and field, like I didn't always feel like I was, completely embraced by everyone. Like there's a lot of groups and things that I felt excluded from, but I'm like, it's fine, like no big deal. So I think like that rejection has helped me. And even when I was applying to jobs, trying to break into tech, I applied to like over 100 jobs and got no's. But I am to Tim Grover's book title, Relentless. I'm very relentless. And I just don't operate off of plan B's. Like I only see plan A, and I just keep going until that is done. And then I'm on to the next plan A.
Yeah. No, and I think that that's an area we definitely have in common. We joke, my husband and I joke around about how I was born without the embarrassment gene, and I'll just put myself out there. And of course, no one, the three things I think we're all running from is abandonment, rejection, and loneliness.
Yep.
We can definitely talk more about that at a different time. But I am totally like the rejection doesn't hurt as much as not putting myself out there, and putting myself out there is so important. I mean, hello, how did you and I meet? I marched up to you and started talking to you. Exactly. And we gain so much more from putting ourselves out there than we lose from the rejection piece.
Oh yeah, no. And I think you have always been like that since a child. Like I wasn't like that as a child, but I had to develop that gene. And so, it's really like, I always say you're able to change any aspect of yourself if you work hard on it enough and you practice it. So I had to practice it.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that you're a student of life. I mean, we all should be. It's so important to know that there's still so much more to learn and know, and not to rest on our laurels or to think we have everything figured out, because the second we think we have everything figured out,
God is laughing. Yeah.
God, life, the universe.
Whoever you call. Yeah, no, it's so true though. But I remember reading an article years ago, I think it was like in my 20s, and I was so inspired by this nun who they said she had read, by the time of her death, she had read thousands of books and spoke 7 languages. And I just was so amazed at that, because in order to do that, like think of just how much studying you have to do, and so it really resonated with me. And I was like, I was already like very just naturally a curious person, but I think like I became very intentional with studying. And so like reading has always been my favorite thing to do, but I even upped my reading. I think I was reading like, 12 to 20 books, and I end up starting to read like 40 and 50 books a year. And this is before children, because now with children, it's a lot more difficult, but I get creative. And so I will, I am Amazon's friend, because I will buy an audiobook and a physical book. And so I do both.
Book. I'll do that for the same book.
Me too. For the same book. No, me too.
Okay.
No, exactly. That's why I said I'm their friend, because I will buy both, and then sometimes I'll even buy it on my Kindle, because then I like at night, I like to read on my Kindle because it's easy on my eyes. So, but I have to get it in, because it's a part of, for me, like it's a part of my healing, like I love reading, I love learning. And more importantly, I love challenging myself. So I'm constantly looking at myself and taking feedback from people that, like I even asked you, for feedback, like people who I respect, I want that feedback, because I know it's coming from a place of love. And, I think like a lot of times people say, oh, be open to feedback. It's like, well, not everybody can give you feedback, and it's not always constructive, I always, whenever I give feedback, I try and like give, like instructions as well. Like, here's ways that you can, do X, Y, or Z, because otherwise then you're just, beating someone over the head. So, so I'm really like, whenever I'm giving feedback or receiving it, like I always ask for action items, so.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I want to hear what's next for you.
Yeah. Let's see. I am currently working on another ebook. I like writing ebooks, but I'm also working on a physical book too. So that's exciting. I haven't actually shared that, but very excited about that. I'm, working my businesses, learning again, like I said, I'm building businesses from scratch. So if you are interested in joining me on this journey, please DM me, reach out. I am at Damesha on all of the social medias, but I'm building, companies and learning. I'm in communities. I just actually, a community that I joined, Pretty Damn Ambitious. It's a community of incredible women, led by Bianca King, who is just fabulous and phenomenal. But she invited me to be a coach on her platform. And so I'm very grateful for that. And building out my coaching business, Leveled, and which is in partnership with the Craig Network. So a lot of fun things happening, a lot of learnings. And like I'm also, putting myself out there a lot more on social media, and also building this podcast with you. So that's what's next. We're, building.
And I'm so fortunate to be given this opportunity, and I couldn't imagine doing it with anyone else. So thank you, Damesha.
I feel
From the bottom of my heart, this is amazing. And I just love that we can be real and open, inspire each other. And we hope if we can just inspire one other person, then we've done our job. Right?
No, that's exactly how I feel.
So you shared where we can find you, right?
Yeah. On my socials, again, just my full name on all the socials. Like I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn. So connect with me on either of those. And you can also connect with SoulDay podcast on Instagram. Leave us a comment here, please. I would love to just leave, kind of with a quote. And it's probably one of my favorite quotes by Irma Bombeck. She actually lived out here in Arizona, which I learned after I kind of started doing research on her, like I do everything else when I start going in deep and wanting to learn more. But she has a quote that is kind of like, I would say like it's really guided me like in my life. But she says, when I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I not have a single bit of talent left in me, so I can say that I used everything you gave me. So that really describes me and all the things that I'm, like trying to achieve. And it's because I really want to tap into all the things that God gave me. And, like I said, if I even help one person along that journey, then I've done my job. But the feedback has been just tremendous, and I'm trying not to get emotional, but people who have
get emotional.
No. But it's no, I know, right? You would love that. You're like, just cry. No, but honestly, like I'm really grateful because I do think God has put extraordinary people on my path who have, helped me, who have mentored me. Some didn't even know they were mentoring me. Shout out to Ruben Harris, who's the CEO of Career Karma. He had put up a quote that really inspired this Sunday SoulDay as well. Many things inspired it, but his quote that he says, success on Monday starts on Sunday. And it's a reason why I wanted to use the word Sunday, just as a reminder. And here's the thing, like, we're doing this, we want you to practice these things every day, not just on Sunday. But if we can just remind you to pick a day, at least one day, just pick Sunday, because it'll really carry you into the rest of your week. So I'm just really grateful for all the feedback and the love and support of my businesses. Like people just showing up for me. It's, with a lot of gratitude. So thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Damesha. Is there any final thought or thing you'd like to share with all of us?
I think that's the perfect way to end it. I'm sure we'll do more of this, and we'll continue to peel each other back and share more of ourselves as we invite guests on. But please tune in. Next Sunday we have an amazing guest on, Zach Chandler, who I actually met at during the Jay Shetty certification school. He is a dating and relationship coach, and it's really like he also focuses on trauma in dating. And so I am just so excited to have him on, and hope you guys tune in.
Yeah, thank you. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Sunday SoulDay Podcast, and follow us on Instagram, same handle, Sunday SoulDay Podcast. Thank you so much, Damesha, for being so open, raw, and real with us. And have a wonderful Sunday, everyone. Take care.
Oh, thank you so much.